Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here I am, John Sneisen, here in Acapulco, Mexico, and we've got a lot to talk about today because of course the not QE, Jerome Powell, is essentially admitting that the government is screwed, and we're going to go into a couple articles today, but first I just want to note this one that says, Fed Chair Jerome Powell just admitted the U.S. economy is screwed, and basically he says that low interest rates are the new reality and that's the way it is. Well, you know how he for so long said that there was no QE, it was not QE. Well, things have changed a little bit. As this Market Watch article says, Powell says Fed will aggressively use QE to fight next recession. Now, as we've gone into a million times here at WHAM, I believe the recession never ended in 2008. It's just been papered over. But nonetheless, let's talk as far as officially goes. He's talking about there is an upcoming recession, and he's going to be using QE aggressively, as this article goes into. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said Wednesday that central bank would fight the next economic downturn by buying large amounts of government debt to drive down long-term interest rates, a strategy that has been dubbed quantitative easing, or QE. In testimony before the Senate Banking Committee, Powell said the Fed had two recession-fighting tools: buying government bonds, known as QE, and communicating clearly with markets about interest rate policy routinely considered as forwardly guidance. And I quote, "We will use those tools. I believe we will use them aggressively should the need arise to do so," Powell said. The Fed has traditionally been able to slash interest rates to fight a recession, often by as much as 5 percentage points, but that's impossible now because the Fed's benchmark rate is currently in a range of 1.5% to 1.75%. And I quote, "We will have less room to cut," Powell said. Well, duh, and that's just something that we've been talking about for years, John. We were predicting every last step going all the way to this point and beyond, and people said we're crazy. People said we were saying the same thing over and over again, but we were right, and we've been vindicated, and here we are. What's next, John? What's going on?
Well, next is actually they are doing QE, Josh, and as a matter of fact, they're about $120 billion in QE that they've done, mostly in treasury bonds. So they actually been doing QE. They have bought outright bonds and mortgage-backed securities already. So they're doing QE. Meanwhile, they're saying that, oh, there's no QE. Don't call it QE, because they were talking about the repo intervention, so the overnight lending to make sure that the banks are solvent. That broke down because nobody wanted to lend to each other. So the Fed had to come in and give out the credit line to everybody with a super low interest rate compared to 10% as they wanted to have. So what happened is that started turning into 2-week terms. Now it's also at 1 month terms. And now currently, over the last couple of days, I looked at it today, they've been oversubscribed by a lot on the 2-week terms. So there's a whole bunch of institutions and banks out there that are really struggling to make sure that they're solvent, and they're just trying to push this agenda. But what happened, though, is that the Fed, since I believe it was the 11th of November, they actually had to go in and buy treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. And as you can see here, I'll make sure this chart is here, but as of the 28th of January, it was 115.385 billion, and this started on so it was in November, the 20th of November, officially it started. So they actually are doing QE right now, not on the grand scale that they did in 2008 yet. But of course, with the interest rates being as low as they are, he's saying that they don't have too much room to cut. I believe that they're going to go negative, but they really need to wait until they actually could go cashless, because, in Denmark, in Switzerland and other places, they tried to go cashless. But the problem is that people were starting to withdraw cash from the system, start to put strains on the whole economy, because cash, taken out of the banks means potential bank runs, risk on the banks, because they don't have any cash at all. We proved that many times before.
Which is funny, because that's the whole reason why they were going cashless, so that people couldn't do runs on the banks, so that they could track everyone's money, so they could do bail-ins without anyone being able to do anything about it. But obviously, 2020 hasn't started off to a great start, John. It seems like we have almost gone right off a cliff the second the decade begun. But obviously, we have people like Donald Trump saying multiple times that he wants negative interest rates, negative interest rates. I mean, we're at a point in time when the president is saying he wants negative interest rates. Why are they even, leave the economy alone, first of all, but this is so crazy. What do you think?
Well, it was actually in my speech here that I'm going to do on Friday. I talk about that if they were to drop the same amount as they usually are, they would need to go down to minus 2.8 to 3.5, I believe, in negative interest rates in order to do a similar cut, like a 5% cut. So they do need to go to negative interest rates, but negative interest rates in the first place just means that you're insolvent and you just need to print money, and then everybody's getting money back to pay off the interest, which doesn't make sense at all. So that's a way of printing money in itself, because you need to print money on, like, so you have an interest rates that prints by itself. Like, it's really fucked up, the whole system, and it's not sustainable whatsoever, Josh, this whole negative interest rate system. But that's what we come to, though, because they don't have any exit strategies at all. They were supposed to, cut their balance sheet, and then of course their balance sheet is now up 500 billion almost, since September when they started this whole thing, and they're just like it's just anything right now could just break this whole scam that they got going with slowly holding up the system. But we got to remember the repo market interventions, that was what really started the 2008 crisis.
You mean the repo interventions that were supposed to end in January, and now they say April, and it could go as far as September?
Yeah, they're bankrupt. The banks are bankrupt, and there's nobody there other than the Federal Reserve, to make sure that they have a credit line constantly there for them in order for them to stay solvent. Like, all of these banks are systemically, like, insolvent, and there's no way that we can save them other than, continuously keep on this money printing train. And at one point, yeah, they could do all this QE for a lot longer. Who cares? But at one point, it's going to come to the population being, because some of that money will trickle into the economy. There's no way they can just keep that whole Ponzi scheme going without it trickling back into the economy. So at one point, you're going to have a France, you're going to have a Hong Kong, you're going to have a Peru, a Lebanon. People as either a tax or, that they can't afford food, like in a lot of cases in France, because of money printing, that, taxation on the one side, inflation on the other side, strangling people, and then they're dying, and they can't feed their families. And that's at that point throughout history, that's when, they come with the pitchforks for you little bankster rats at Wall Street and everywhere else in the world.
It's one of the biggest, disgusting, most disgraceful scams in history, and we're seeing it all come to fruition right now. Millions of people on the streets throughout the world, this homelessness, all can be tied back to the banking crisis, to inflation, to the money printing, to these money changers that are enslaving the populace in debt. And, people just take what they can get and they give up and they don't do anything about it. Well, there's a lot of solutions out there, folks, and we need to go into the
theory. No,
don't do that. Don't listen to AOC. Look, we've got there's more solutions than there are problems, as I say also often here at WHAM. And let's go into some of those solutions, John. As always, food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block. Gold and silver as wealth insurance, not investment advice, but my opinion, of course, of decentralized, properly, fundamentally useful cryptocurrencies and blockchain infrastructure technology. And most importantly, you are the change you wish to see. You are the one that has control over your own life. You just have to disobey. You must be responsible. You must be self-sufficient. You must own yourself, own your life, own your money, own your health, own your wealth. It's all so important. Closing it off, John, final words.
Taxation is theft and rape. That's what I would have to say. No,
it is.
This whole money printing scheme is just a gigantic Ponzi scheme that you just got to make sure that you secure your way by, we have lots of videos out there talking about all the different ways that you could protect your wealth. There's lots of great things that you can go and look at that we've done over our 700-800 videos together. So I highly suggest you just take a look at a whole bunch of other videos. Actually, I want to just promote my report that's out right now, which you can go and find at my website, theeconomictruth.org. If you put in, actually I have a special now for Acapulco, and since this is an Acapulco video, I have an ACA coupon code that you could put in, and it gives you 85% off. So instead of paying $99, you pay $14 something. So I think it's a great deal, and it goes through this and much, much more about the economy. What's the risk are basically if you have the money invested in anything in 2020.
Absolutely. Make sure to check those links below, guys. Press like on the video. Help get it out there, because we are Shadowban, and as always, be free, live free, decentralize everything. Don't be a slave. Till next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here at WHAM, don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We cannot do it without you guys. Every donation is extremely, extremely appreciated as we're getting incredibly shadow banned. We've lost 80% of our audience since January of 2019 and counting. They are ripping us apart here on YouTube, and the only thing we could do in the meantime as we prepare for the next big step is to ask for help from the viewers that support our free information that we try to post on a daily basis. You can also find us on Subscribestar, where just $1 a month, that's all it takes, $1 a month is all it takes to truly make a huge difference. If everyone gave $1 a month, it would change everything for independent media, and we could win this information war, and we can defeat the mainstream medias eventually. And of course, on Subscribestar, we post subscriber-only content that you'll only see on Subscribestar. So make sure to pledge there, become a patron. That makes a huge difference, guys. And also, don't forget to check out our Bitcoin address below in the comments and description, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on the alternatives. We will likely be deleted by YouTube in the next 2 years. It's already happening on a vast scale, so make sure to find us on float.app. That's flote.app. At Josh Sigurdson, as well as at WHAM, W-A-M. Float.app is replacing every social media, and I mean, it's just incredible the opportunities it provides for not just creators, but for the average person who wants to get away from these nannies telling them what they can or cannot see. They plan to replace Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon. You could subscribe to us on Float and pledge with cryptocurrency. It's really innovative. We are also on BitChute at World Alternative Media, as well as so many others, Minds, PocketNet. You can find us at World Alternative Media on Instagram. There's many options. And finally, don't forget to join us at Anarchapulco 2020, the famous event, the best Liberty event known to mankind, other than perhaps Anarcho Vegas 2020. There are 2 major events coming up that we are extremely excited about, and you can use promo code WHAM, that's W-A-M, and save 10% on your tickets to these legendary conferences. There's so many amazing people speaking there. You won't want to miss it. So make sure to support in any way you can, even if it's just sharing our videos, pressing like, pressing to be notified. Anything helps, folks. You are the change you wish to see. Thanks for watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.